cloud and add Susan's name.
I changed her name, so that's all set.
Oh, you did? I just.
All right, we're ready. And I see Steve there, so we're ready to go. Right, thanks for waiting. I apologize. It is Monday, May 16th, 2022. It is now 7:56 p.m. and I call this meeting of the Needham Design Review Board to order. I'm the board chair, Mark Glusing. I would like to confirm that all members and applicants are present and can hear. So members, when I call your name, please respond. Susan Upton
Yes.
and Steve Tanner.
Yes.
Okay, and also attending our town staff, Rana Monadorfer and Elisa Lichman. Applicants on the agenda, we've already been chatting, but I'll just go through it. The first item is Needham Upholstery, 81 Chapel Street. Steve?
Yes.
Okay, and then 557 Highland Avenue. We have a nice team here. We've been talking, so I believe you can all still hear us.
Correct.
Right. Welcome to this open meeting of the Needham Design Review Board, which is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. The order allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so long as the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. For this meeting, the Needham Design Review Board is convening by Zoom app, sort of, as posted on the town's website, on the DRB page, identifying how the public may join. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. DRB meetings typically do not engage in public comment. All supporting materials have been provided to members of this board are available on the town's website. Public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Please note this meeting is being recorded. Accordingly, be aware that other people may be able to see you and take that care not to screen share your computer unless the chair approves. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Jesus, sorry, this is not a day. I would like to review the remote meeting procedures for tonight's meeting. I will introduce each applicant on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the DRB members will review the item. After discussion, each vote will be by a roll call vote. The department requires electronic submission of building permit applications. Copy of the application stamped and noted for the type of approval it receives will be emailed to the applicant by the DRB support staff. That can then be attached to your building application. In the case of a site plan review, we write a memo to the planning board only. We don't have a vote on approval. We will start now with the first item on the agenda. So fast signs representing Needham Upholstery, 81 Chapel Street. Steve, you want to take us through this?
Good evening. I tried for 20 minutes to log in here, but it just gave me a turning circle and I just had to wait. So I hope you have all the materials because I can't seem to get mine from my office. I do have it in front of me. We are planning to install at 81 Chapel Street a simple aluminum bar frame sign with a gray background and black raised letters, black half-inch letters, and a logo with a picture on it of a chair. And these will be raised half an inch off the surface and be attached by the usual brackets that we use to attach signs like this on the back, invisible. And that's pretty much it. We went through a lot of back and forth with the customer, and this is what he wanted to put on there in that way. We talked about putting Needham over upholstery. It could be bigger, and didn't like it. He didn't want to go with it. So here we are.
Okay, thanks. Steve, do you have any questions or comments?
I think the sign looks fine. The only comment I would make is maybe to correct the intercharacter space between the D and the H in the word Needham. The H needs to be moved over just a little bit so that it doesn't look like Needham. Other than that, I think it's perfectly fine.
Okay,
Susan?
probably a resolution error, but I'll check it out.
And Susan?
Wondering, is the door color remaining the same color? Do you know?
Pardon me?
Is the door color going to be pink?
On the facade?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can't tell you. If it is, I don't know that he's changing it. Why? I'm not in charge of the door.
that's fine, Steve.
No, I
That's
know.
fine.
I just thought it would look nicer if the door and the sign spoke to each other a little more, maybe with color or something.
I'll let him know. Probably would look nicer.
Okay, yeah, we're really just reviewing the sign at this point, but that's,
Good
I
comment.
understand your comment. All right, and I will note that Bob Dermody has been able to join the meeting. He's another DRB member. So Bob, I don't know if you have
Can you
access.
hear? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, hi, Bob.
Hi. Yeah, I'm on my phone in my car, so let me know if it conks out.
Okay,
Yeah, I think it's appropriate. Seems reasonable. And this isn't the sign, but what's above the door below the sign? It looks different in the three images.
it's
Well,
it's basically a transom panel, the glass, but I think it's
Oh.
blacked out in the back.
Okay. Then, yeah, if it meets our other requirements with size and everything, I'm fine.
Okay. All right, yeah, my only concern, Steve, was that a 4-inch letter is not very large, but we're often trying to make people make them smaller. So if he's comfortable with it and likes the look, and
That's
is
what he
not
wants.
listening to your advice, then we will probably just go ahead with that. So I would take a motion to approve the 81 Chapel Street sign with the condition that they modify the spacing between, in the word Needham, between the D and an H.
So moved.
And second, someone?
I will second.
All right, then come to the vote. Bob Dermody,
I vote yes.
Steve Tanner,
Yes,
Susan Opton. Susan, do you vote on aye or nay?
Hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Yes, I've been saying yes.
Okay, thank you. And the chair approves. All right, thanks, Steve.
That's it.
You're all set.
Appreciate it. Hi, Robert.
Hi, Steve. Bye, Steve.
Bye.
I just had two questions. Mr. Mark Diorio, who are you with? Which company? Just because I don't have like a thing after your name.
I'm general counsel with the Bullfinch Companies, please, the applicant.
Perfect. Okay, that's the only person I wanted to, oh, and Mr. Tim Sullivan?
Goulston and Stores, attorney for the applicant.
I think we've seen Mr. Sullivan before. Was it the Children's?
Yes,
Okay.
yep, Children's.
Okay, so we have a nice team here from Bullfinch Group for the 557 Highland Ave.
Are you ready for us?
So I'm going to turn it over to you guys and let you take us through.
Can everybody see the screen okay?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Design Review Board. My name is Robert Schlager. I'm the president of the Bullfinch Companies, the owner developer of the property. And we're here this evening to present our proposal to you. Some of you may have seen it previously in various neighborhood groups that we have had and meetings that have been scheduled both publicly as well as separate meetings privately. Please at any time feel free to visit our website, 557highland.com. There's also some FAQs and would be frequently asked questions. Would be happy to go through any one question with you if you have specific concerns. With us this evening is our landscape architect, Paul Finger and Associates. He and Eric Joseph will describe for you the landscape features of the site. Our architectural team, headed by Principal Eric Wayant and Kristen Weigel and Tom Ertz, will go through the architecture of the site. We're very pleased and proud to present the site of this level to the town of Needham. The project itself is really an award-winning project in our view, and it's something that our company, who's been in existence since 1936, is probably going to place this project as in the top 3 of its most interesting developments, both architecturally and design-wise. The project team together, collectively, we calculated, has nearly 1,000 years of experience. Stantec, the former Ad Inc., also, you may recall, designed the office building at 160 Gould Street, as well as our headquarters building at 250 First Avenue, also in Needham, of course. VHB, traffic consultants, SGH, structural engineers, and of course, local counselors, Bob Smart, Tim Sullivan, and Charles LeRae. Next slide, please. So overview of the site as it exists today. Is I think everybody's been by it probably 100 times, so I'm certainly not going to waste the time to refresh everyone's memory. I just do want to point out that the Channel 5 site, which is in the lower right-hand corner, is not owned or operated by us. That has nothing to do with our project. That's owned and operated by Channel 5, also known as Hearst Media Publications. Next slide, please. So again, the site in terms of sun studies and the like, where people come from, 128 to the north, 128 to the south, Highland Avenue and the radius point heading east to west, parallel to Route 128. Next slide, please.
I'm going to jump in here.
Sure, next slide.
So I'll go quick because I know we sent this in advance to everybody. Hi, everyone. My name is Eric Wyant, design principal at Stantec. There's a number of influences that have shaped our approach to this project. Obviously, the site influences slide previously that you saw on the orientation of the sun, movement around the site. And we also looked very closely at the frontages along Highland and how the current Muzzy lot is really not contributing in any real meaningful way to the public realm. So that was something that was important to us as we began the project. We also looked back at some historical photos just to understand the evolution of the site. When Muzzy moved to the site, it was a kind of an internal building with obviously all of the cars located around the perimeter. As Robert mentioned before, their primary access point was actually off of Highland Ave and then through Gould Street. There was no opportunity to do anything at the corner. So we really look back at this history and think there's a great opportunity to improve the site's condition. This is a 3-dimensional diagram just showing what was approved during the zoning process that happened last year. Notably, there's a 50-foot landscape setback, a landscape buffer from Highland and Gould to the face of building. The face of building at that location is allowed to go up to 42 feet in height. And then 200 feet back from the property line, you're allowed to go to 70 feet. So you can see the little diagrammatic cross section here through those setbacks. The 50-foot landscape buffered coupled with a 42-foot high street wall is a very, very comfortable, as you all are likely familiar, kind of a one-to-one relationship is very comfortable to walk against along. And so, I think this will be pretty reasonable to work within. The structured garage was also dictated to be within this 70-foot height zone, although its height was capped at 55 feet. And it also had a maximum floor plate of 42,000 square feet. So this is the conceptual diagram or conceptual idea really for the project. It's essentially 2 linear bars, 2 linear elements with in this diagram, this yellow kind of in-between space that is essentially the front door, and it is also a place where we hope folks will collaborate. There will be amenities within this space. Dining, lounge space, fitness, co-working, meeting spaces. As we know, in a post-COVID world, people are looking for opportunities to get out of their office and work in all kinds of environments. And so we imagine this kind of yellow zone here as being an opportunity to connect people from both the kind of north and south building. We also really like the idea that it knits the front of the site to the back of the site kind of together. So from the front entry drive across from the Wingate curb cut, you see the front door, and then this kind of bow tie form or bow tie shape reappears for people coming down Highland from the Newton edge. So this is our proposal. It's broken into 3 components. There's the north building, which is primarily aligned along Highland Ave. This is 3 stories tall and 42 feet in height. There's the north building, which is 5 stories and 70 feet in height. That's kind of kinked in the middle of the site. And then there's a central atrium that connects both the north and south. Again, this is the front door to the building, and then additional amenity space. Around the perimeter of the site, working from the corner at Highland and Gould, we have an outdoor retail plaza. There's 10,000 square feet of retail space set aside for the project. So there'll be an opportunity for outdoor seating, tables, chairs, place to have lunch and whatnot. Around the entire perimeter of the site is a half-mile long walking and fitness loop. There's a series of breakout stations for passive exercise use around the perimeter. We think this will be a real benefit to both the neighborhood and to the tenants of the building. And then lastly, at the corner is a reinterpreted, we know a lot of people love the old Muzzy water feature, koi pond fountain. So we've done a kind of a reinterpretation of that. I think it'll be great for wayfinding and a nice kind of landmark and entry into the site. And then the structured parking garage, again, located where it was designated, 5 stories, 55 feet in height. We're hoping to include PV solar above the entire footprint of the garage, working with the heights of the allowed zoning. All in total, this is a little over 500,000 square feet. And yep. Oh, sorry, I thought somebody had a question. As a 1.25 FAR, so a little bit under the 1.35 that was allowed by special permit. And this is also a departure from required zoning of 1,700 or so. Parking spaces down to 1,400. We know with lab use that load is a little bit lighter. In terms of the site plan, there's a new primary entry off of Gould Street that is, we're calling the West Drive. There'll be a new signalized intersection across from the Wingate entry. You enter on access to the building, again, with the front door, that atrium space kind of located directly across. There's a drop-off zone for both vehicles and bicycles, and then cars and bikes. Actually, bikes can go into the building here for bicycle storage. Cars can proceed down to the structured parking through this internal drive. And then there's a secondary exit out onto TV Place, which we call the North Drive. There's also a small surface parking lot at the front of the site that we're thinking about as kind of easy in, easy out, maybe supporting the retail space as part of the project. You can see the half-mile walking loop making its way around the perimeter. There's a detention pond. The site slopes approximately 15, 20 feet from the corner of Highland and Gould down to the 128 kind of northern edge. So we have a detention pond at the bottom corner with an interesting kind of little lookout bridge that makes your way over the pond. Just a quick update on some of the amenities that we imagine as part of the fitness trail, kind of a passive style recreation or passive style exercise equipment located around the perimeter. We've also been working with the fire department. They anticipate using some of this pathway for access around the building, so it'll serve a number of uses. This is a perspective now looking at the main entrance drive coming in off of Gould Street. You can see the atrium and front elevation of kind of the entry piece here. The building is primarily a punch window. We didn't really think this was a glass curtain wall kind of building, so it's a punch window, relates a little bit better to the surrounding context, set within a kind of warm terracotta toned solid material that we'll describe in a slide or two later. And then there was that slide that we had with the solar orientation that showed a few stars around the site. Those stars were representative of opportunities that we thought were available for architectural kind of intervention. So there's some larger forms of glass that happen at some of the corners. There's also a curved radius at the north and south edge. Again, just to provide a little bit more visual interest around the perimeter of the building. You can see the entry drive that comes in and the parking garage located at this edge here with its head house. And there's an idea to use a graphic banner to conceal some of the structured parking. We've done this in Cambridge and it's been quite successful. I'll show you a precedent for that in a second. This is a pedestrian level view now, standing essentially on the sidewalk of Gould, looking back at the building. Again, you can see that kind of larger glass curtain wall expression at the top 3 stories of the 5-story building. And in the foreground, you can see the walking fitness amenity path making its way around the perimeter. In terms of our kind of basis of design for what we're thinking in terms of the elevation, kind of working top down, the roof screen, which is limited to 15 feet in height, we're doing in a very kind of simple ribbed metal panel in a kind of charcoal tone or charcoal color. And then the entire kind of terracotta looking material is actually a GFRC panelized product that would come pre-glazed with the windows to allow for a faster installation and erection process around the perimeter. It's a material that most people, when you hear GFRC, you think of the terrible 1980s stuff, but it's actually come quite a way, and there's a lot of really inventive precedent out there that we've taken some cues from. There's also at the main entrance atrium, this kind of idea of a gradient. We're very much interested in the site's location on the highway side and this notion of movement and kind of speed of cars. And so there's this gradient of mullions and metal panel across the front that creates a little bit of interest at the front door. This is just a quick precedent image showing the opportunities that GFRC allows. It's an incredibly resilient material, allows for a lot of different finishes to happen, both with sandblasting, different kinds of sandblasting, and different colors. And again, the idea that we can panelize this thing with the windows and erect it pretty quickly was something that is very interesting to us.
Can I interrupt 1 second?
Sure.
And just get a little more of a description of what GFRC means so that
It's a
everybody.
gypsum fiber reinforced concrete. So it's about 1.5 inches, 2 inch, it can go down as thin as 1 inch panel that you can create any kind of texture. And I apologize for going fast. Maybe I should
that's fine.
slow the pace down a little bit, but I know we have a lot of slides and a number of presenters. Yeah, you can do lots of really interesting things with it, different textures, different reveals. You can see the form on the bottom left with these kind of scalloped or curved edges.
It looks like precast. You wouldn't know the difference, Mark,
That's
between
right.
precast and GFRC.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
All right, I'll keep rolling. I'll slow it just a tad bit. This is now a blow up of the basis of design for the structural precast garage. We've done a number of these before and have become quite familiar with the opportunities that are provided with a structural precast garage. Even though it's not technically an architectural precast, we still have been able to accommodate different finishes, different textures, different reveal patterns. You can see this image blow up on the top left here. And then on the top right, this idea of covering some of the key zones with a fabric panel. For the time being, we have kind of a placeholder of a sky or cloud pattern. We did a local flora and fauna display for this Cambridge project, and I think we got more phone calls about how that project was done, about the graphic banners than the actual building itself. But it came out really nice and was very successful. The head house will have a series of elements, both glass and spandrel. And then we have a glazed in perforated metal screen over the top of the curtain wall at the front door that may even look to provide some kind of wayfinding and signage opportunities cut into that panel. So just a few aerial images to make our way around the project. This is floating up over Highland Ave, where the 3-story bar is oriented. There's a curtain wall expression that happens at this corner here on the south corner with, again, the kind of curved or radiused edge. Similarly, a corner kind of relief of curtain wall on the northeastern side. And then the opaque material with the punch windows that you can see kind of left and right. It's the project is actually split at the middle as well and set back with a series of outdoor terraces. We know, again, in a post-COVID world, people are looking for opportunities to work outside, take a phone call outside, just have to have lunch. So providing as many outdoor work opportunities as possible. So there's a series here along Highland Ave, and then on top of the atrium piece, which connects to the third floor of the south and north building, is a larger kind of communal shared outdoor roof terrace that has access from both edges. We've been working with the community in a series of meetings. I think, as Robert mentioned before, I think we're on our 5th or 6th community meeting coming up this Thursday night, looking for opportunities for additional outdoor amenity space. We've been talking to the community about pickleball or seasonal ice skating rink, or just an expanded lawn area to have a picnic lunch or toss a Frisbee. So this white box that is just to the Gould Street side of the surface parking lot is kind of a placeholder for TBD development with community input. This is now an eye level view, pedestrian level view, standing on Highland Ave, where you can see the break in the facade with the terraced outdoor workspaces. And then again, this kind of punched window articulation with the GFRC material set around it. Now a view up from the 128 sides. One of the things we like most about the connecting atrium is its presence both as the kind of front door as you come in off of Gould, but also as it squeezes its way between the two bar buildings and then reemerges on the 128 side. We think this will be a really interesting piece to look at as you make your way into town from kind of the Newton side coming over from 128. As I mentioned before, it's going to be a very active space with collaboration and fitness and cafe. So a real opportunity for kind of inside out and outside in experience. All of the low roofs on the project are treated as a green roof. So the tenants looking down onto those buildings, or onto those lower roofs, excuse me, will see a landscaped condition. And then you can see the fitness walking loop making its way around the perimeter. This is that detention pond. I don't think we will have trout or fish stocked in this pond, but the lookout bridge where you can go over the top, kind of a neat opportunity to look back at the site and look back at the project. And this is one more eye level view on the fitness trail, looking back at the building and seeing the structured parking off to the right in the foreground. You can see the kind of idea for these banners, at least at their locations. I think we'll still refine what is actually on the banners, looking at what some Needham influences and really try and tie it to the neighborhood and to the town. One thing I should mention is that we got very excited when we were doing these renderings, and everywhere it says tenant signage, this should probably not be viewed as part of this proposal. We will come back with a full tenant signage proposal. We did not fully take into account the maximum size and locations, and I know you're not allowed to have parapet signs like this. So we'll revise the signage when we come back at a later time. We just also finished up a physical model this weekend, so I just wanted to put in a couple of these slides. I know this wasn't part of the preview set that I sent to the town earlier last week, but again, just to see the project in context. I know it's not part of the architectural design, but there's a number of really impactful traffic upgrades to Gould Street with bike lanes and road widening and additional turn lanes that we think will really improve and enhance this edge of Gould as you make your way to Highland. And then one more view in context where we're floating over Wingate and then over the detention pond with, again, the banners. That curved glass corner that repeats on the 128 side as a kind of a opposite motif that happens at the Highland and Gould corner, steps back at level 4 so that level 5 can have an outdoor roof deck as well for that tenant at that location. Shadow impact, we don't have to go into in great detail, mainly because there's almost zero impact to any of the surrounding properties. Any of the shadow is primarily on our own property or on our own buildings. And sustainability, again, not necessarily part of the visual components of what we're here to review tonight, but we have a very elaborate and extensive approach to both sustainability and wellness, a number of really fantastic features that we think will make the building quite fantastic, both from an architectural perspective in terms of how it performs, but also in terms of the tenant occupancy, things like healthy eating and opening up the stairways to promote, more exercise and people moving a little bit more, bike storage, all of those great things. We're also proceeding with a LEED Gold approach for the project and currently on pace for that. These are some of the wellness attributes, biophilia within the interior atrium space and having green walls. Lots of really cool features that we're really proud of and think the town will be really proud of as well. With that, I apologize for going as fast as I did, but I'm going to pass it over to Paul Finger and Eric Joseph from Paul Finger Associates, maybe to just give a high level overview of some of the landscape features. I'll go back to the site plan.
Go
If
to
that's okay, Paul.
slide 10. Slide 10.
This one,
There you go.
great.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Eric. Eric reviewed most of what we were going to go over, but let me see if I can elaborate on a few items. This is a unique site. Muzzy, as you're all well aware, was paved from end to end. It was basically void of any vegetation. Usually as a landscape architect, you look at what the existing conditions are and see how you can enhance it. In this particular case, we're starting from call it a blank canvas and then working on from that basis. What we really started to look at is 4 or 5 activity areas that we're going to be starting to concentrate on. Those activity areas are, as Eric had described it, was more of the commercial retail area where we're anticipating some hardscape in there, being pavers, tables, an area gathering for dining, sitting. And it's not only just for tenant driven, but it's really for the community also. Following from there, just on the corner, as the only basically historic area was the little fountain on the corner, which, as Erica had mentioned, was the koi pond. So just to basically look back to what Muzzy had in that particular area, we're going to replicate that in some form of fountain that we can have a water feature, maybe something that has a waterfall aspect to it, but then there's Plaza behind it. The next area was the public open space. Now, we've received great input from during the neighborhood meetings. And so we've gotten a lot of feedback from the community, not all consistent with one another, and we got to be able to work through that. And that's what we basically have committed to the community, is to be able to work with them on trying to come up with a collaborative design that basically we can all stand behind. So what that central open space is, a community space right on Gould, is something that will continue to be developed. Moving around from there, the next area is just a front entry. A front entry really wants to be able to have its presence. It has a focal point coming in. So as far as the architecture is concerned, we're going to put a lot of emphasis on there and make sure that basically it's a warm, welcoming exposure coming in there, and before we enter into the building, a drop-off area, and then basically off to the garage to drop off your car, or to leave and then head back out in the event that it's a rideshare program. The last item that we have is basically it's actually not necessarily a detention pond, it's a retention pond. So the retention pond in the back, because of the groundwater elevations that we're anticipating in the soils, we're going to be able to hold water in here. The water that we're going to hold can be used not only for water quality purposes, but also can be used for irrigation. We're not anticipating, part of what we described in one of the final slides was we're going after LEED certification. As part of LEED certification, outdoor water use is very important in terms of minimizing that from potable water. So we're not anticipating that. And we think that the retention pond back here has the ability to be also a nice amenity, not only for the tenants here, but also for the community as a exercise area, a little overlook, a boardwalk across there, maybe some tables that fit around that space. Overall, we're treating this where basically we're coming in with good sized plant material throughout the entire area. We'll concentrate, there'll be a variety of sizes, but where the minimum size that we're looking at is 3.5 to 4 inch caliper. And we're looking for a variety of plants, so therefore we can have seasonal interest, as well as basically a variety of plants and trees that would provide interest for anybody, whether it be, again, our tenants or the community that might be taking advantage of it. I'm going to leave it at that and probably leave it open for discussion if there are questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Robert, did you have any closing?
No, as I said in my interview, Eric, do you want to go back to the finishes schedule? The board, the
sorry.
board metal panel unitized. We should probably culminate with that. This is a project that we're very proud of. We're excited, and we think it'll be complementary to the community and make for a great gateway entrance to the town of Needham. And with those closing remarks, Mark, I'll turn it back to you as chairman.
All right, thank you. I think I have a couple general comments, and then we'll go to the members. But I'd like to sort of look at the site orientation, and I'd say the landscaping. We can talk conceptually about the landscaping. I think that I did listen in on your meeting last Thursday with the public, and I did understand from that there is a joint effort going on in planning some of the landscaping.
Yes.
So when I saw this package and saw that it was mostly trees and a lawn, I guessed that hadn't been, that there were still things ongoing with the neighborhood. So is that true?
Yes, we are working with several different community groups. Some who would like to have a pickleball court. We had designed one pickleball court. Others who had wanted 2 or 3. Others who had wanted green lawn. Others who had wanted a vegetable garden that was community oriented. So we are continuing to refine the interests of all of our constituents. And as we get closer to the public hearing date of June 7, it is our objective to have a fully presented revision that would have incorporated all of the final details after receiving everyone's input, including the design review boards.
Okay, yeah, I think, because basically what I'm seeing is trees and grass. I don't see particular developed areas of planting beds, which I assume some of you are going to want to focus some areas. You're not going to, let's look at Highland Ave, for instance. There's just a large green area and trees along the road. Is there going to be more development of that sort of area, or?
Yes. So if you, Eric, can you go to the elevation, the vertical elevation of Highland?
Yeah, I also have Paul, your
landscape plan.
That sketch up that, or sketch, or excuse me,
Can you put that? Can you put that up, Eric?
Yeah.
Can we go back to the aerial perspective? It'll just be easier. Oh, you just had it. Okay, we can use the black and white. Can we zoom in a little bit so Mark can see the trees?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that what we're going to go, I think we'll go through tonight just in general, but that's when the meadow mix and there's more determination of where those kinds of things are happening. Maybe we'd like to have you come back and we just do a quick review of the final ultimate landscaping and the issues there. And so tonight we'll talk about sort of the general site layout, these amenities that Paul had talked through, and sort of the general orientation, see if there are any comments from the board on those. And then on the detail side of that, when you've decided which trees are going where and a little bit more of that detail, we can go through it with you at another time if that. be okay with you.
That's fine. For example, one comment made was, obviously, we want the walkway surface, which has to meet the requirements of the fire department, the police department, and sustainability issues to comply with our LEED certification. We would want that to be pervious material. Some people had suggested a dirt path to make it more nature oriented. Others have suggested a gravel path. It's from our perspective, we're happy to do a stone dust path that has the capability and the capacity to withstand the weight of an H20 loaded fire truck, which the fire department has asked for. So we're really looking for input from all groups, including, of course, the design review board, as to what you folks might like to see as being more consistent with your expectations. Similarly, on some of the trees, we've spoken with the tree warden, met with him a couple of times for the town, and he suggested alternating species along the street curb line, so that if there is a disease similar to what there was with Dutch elms 20 years ago, or some of the other types of species that have come across, gypsy moth and that type of stuff, that we alternate species. However, some of the neighborhood groups have suggested a more consistent species would be to their liking. So we are.
Sounds like you have your hands full getting through them. So.
We do. We do. But the good news is that it's limited so far, at least, to two issues: landscape selections and traffic.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I will turn it over to some of the board members. Susan, do you have any thoughts or comments on sort of the site orientation, traffic flow, planting areas and schemes such as they're depicted here?
I'll just keep my comments general, since we don't have any specifics at the moment.
I'm sorry, Susan, could you speak up, please? I'm having difficulty hearing you.
Yeah, or your mic might be
I
far
know
away.
you can hear me. Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks.
I'm just going to keep my comments general, and I haven't been to any of the previous presentations or meetings, so I don't exactly know what was discussed, but my first comment is the fitness path and the landscaping around it. I'm hoping it's more, the path itself is buffered from the street and traffic and highway by more robust landscaping and more interesting kinds of landscaping. I've lived here a long time, and that's a really busy street. So if I was gonna use that pathway to relax and enjoy, it seemed like it should be a little more away from the street, or at least buffered from the street.
Okay.
We can look at that.
Yep, definitely.
I'm a big fan of pickleball, so more courts is better. Natives, I'm hoping you guys use natives in your landscaping plan.
Yep.
And I think that's all. I thought the project was really exciting, and I really enjoyed, looking at it. So I appreciate all the effort you guys have put into it.
Thank you. Eric, could you switch over to the slide on the plant species and blow that up for the DRB to see the selections that we've got to date?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
You
That was a sketch. There you go.
Go to the far right of that plan. Oh, the other side.
There you go.
Yeah, perfect. Can we go to zoom in a little bit? Paul, do you just want to run through, or Eric, who's ever most versatile, just run through the species?
Sure. All right. So we have a variety, of just different types of plant groups. We have shade trees, we have ornamental trees, evergreen, and then deciduous shrubs. And then in terms of examples for like shade trees, we're going, we have pin oaks, which in talking with Mr. Olson from the town, he happened to like. We also looking at lindens, oaks, honey locust. And then for the ornamental trees, you mentioned how you want to do something a little bit more native, and we're looking at service berries. We also got some more ornamentals in terms of dogwoods. We have sweet bay magnolias. So it's a variety of different types of ornamental trees, both native as well as more ornamental. Some screening trees, we're looking at some tall spruces, arborvitaes, just for some screening, some site elements. And the shrubs, we're looking at rhododendrons, inkberries, junipers, even some dwarf Colorado blue spruce. For the deciduous shrubs, we've got a variety here in terms of sweet summer, Enkianthus, variegated dogwood, hydrangeas, lilacs, roses, spice bushes, a lot of things that attract wildlife, butterflies, things of that nature, birds. Ground cover, we have sumac, we have daylilies. It's probably going to be one of our chief, grasses that we're looking at. We do have some reed grasses we're investigating, some strawberries, low bush blueberry, some spirea. And then in terms of another plant community that we're actually introduced to the site, we have rain gardens. And in those, we're going to have black-eyed Susans, blue flag iris, broom sedge, cinnamon fern, asters,
We're getting into too much detail.
Yeah. So it's obviously it's a wide variety of different types of plant material that we have.
And one of the things that we tried to do is to structure it so that there was spring, autumn, winter, fall, summer, of course, flowering shrubs or colors that would be appealing and soothing, especially along the jogging trail. And Susan, that's a very good comment along Highland Avenue. And we will incorporate some type of a mid-height, 18 inches to 3 feet type of thing. Just not sure what type of shrub would be best suited for that along that trail, or how we orient it. I don't think we want to go with too high material that would dwarf the trees that will ultimately become very mature over the years. But that's a good suggestion to make people feel more protracted. The police department was sensitive to visibility, and that's why we kept it visible and open. The site is open to the public to walk, to take advantage of the jogging trail or walking trail all hours of the night. There are 911 call boxes, and it is fully illuminated 24/7.
Okay, thank you. Steve, do you have any questions, comments?
Yes, I do agree with Susan about the Highland Ave elevation, and I think that's a very good point. As far as anything else, I think this is a preliminary review, and I would need to see some more details. Like, one of the things I'd like to see if we could get is an actual material sample of the building materials.
Sure. No problem.
Well, like a palette of the screen wall, the charcoal gray screen, the concrete panel or whatever it is. It's the exterior material palette.
Yep. Yeah, no problem. Happy to. We can follow up with that.
Should we send
That's
that to
about
you? Should we send the box of samples to you, Alyssa?
Well, maybe you should send them to Mark, and I could
Okay.
meet
Well,
with
I
Mark.
think, yeah.
You
We'll coordinate after the meeting, but it's likely that as you come back to, this is our review for the planning board. So this is our official review. It's not preliminary. So we would like to see that. I don't know that it's not a matter of something we would disapprove of, I don't think, but a better understanding of that would be helpful.
Sure.
If you're coming back for the landscaping, maybe we can coordinate the two of those together.
Sure.
But again, I'll coordinate with Elisa, and we'll get a way to get some samples in so that we have them on file.
Okay. We'll send them out to you tomorrow or Wednesday, have them delivered to Elisa, and she can maybe pass them around to each member of the committee or stop in the office to look at them, whatever way you choose.
Okay, Steve, any other thoughts?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Bob, I don't know what you're able to actually see from your car, but
I got my laptop open, so I'm good. I'm following along. And hi, everybody, and a special hi to Eric and Kristen. Nice to see you.
Likewise.
Yeah. So a couple things. Piggybacking on some of the landscaping comments, I'd love to see some grasses different than lawn grass. And there may be opportunities based on how we think the different areas that are currently just shown as green lawn surfaces, I read them. So maybe on Highland between the walking path and the building might not be a popular gathering place. So maybe some different type of grasses there. The illumination, is that part of this review? Because I heard the path would be illuminated, which is good, but then it also brings up a concern of how those look, first of all, but then illumination at night and how do they affect neighbors and things.
Sure.
So that's a question, what those
Sure.
light standards might look like.
We
Sure.
actually have the lighting and as well as photometrics.
Okay.
They're all dark sky, if that's your question. They do not have any off spray light from like the olden days. They're all LED down lights, and we can submit that as well with the package of samples, which we're happy to do.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And then also the illumination, I guess, specifically more in the parking structure at the back of the north end of the lot. I've been on the board for a while, and we've been through several projects in Needham Crossing, and there's a large garage there. And I know when I drive south on, Route 128 coming over the hill there from Newton into Needham, I can see those lights from a long distance in the garage. And I know there's a screen on the proposed garage here, but I guess I'm curious about the extent of the screening on the garage.
So we'll give you both color photos as well as a sample of the fabric. And I agree with you. The lights on the A Street garage are on 24/7. Our lighting system is all digitally controlled. If all works out well, without jumping too far ahead of myself, most of our lighting in the garage will be operated via solar energy. The way they work is the lights will be very dim to about 10 or 15% at most. It'll look like an exit light at night in a commercial building. You will barely see it. And that lighting level as cars go by are motion sensor activated, and it goes to 3 levels: low, medium, and high. High when there's multiple cars driving by, low when someone walks, and then of course dim when it's in the inactive mode. So with regard to the banner material, you can barely see through it. It allows wind and air to pass through it, but that's about it. It's actually a very interesting way to conceal a garage. And I think we're innovative in that regard. Hopefully your group will like it. We like the sky view, but we'll show you flora, and we'll show you some other different images that we have as well.
Great. All right. Thanks. I look forward to that. And then just a couple more quick things, Mark. The solar array proposed for is that on the top level of the garage?
Yeah, above the top tray of parking, Bob.
Okay. And would it be cover the whole footprint?
That's what we're looking at now. We're still trying to get the zoning language perfectly situated to make sure that we can actually provide that and that it's not prohibited based on the way that the zoning was put together. But yes, an entire footprint is the idea.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be interested to see how that is framed and what it looks like. Is there any potential for glare and reflection, those kinds of things?
Good question. Yep.
And then the screening and the screening on the roof, it's set back appropriately, but maybe consider a somewhat lighter color than that's rendered here, just because as you look up, you typically look up to a sky that might be in your view then, and the sky tends to be a lot lighter.
Agreed. Yep.
And it seems to be rendered a little darker than the stone, the GFRC on the facade so far. And then lastly, just thank you to all on the team. Did a very thorough presentation.
Thank you.
That's it, Mark. Thanks.
Okay. I guess, well, my comments would be a couple of things. When you're talking about knitting front to back through that atrium space, that's all indoor, correct? That's an
Correct.
indoor atrium. Is it a
Yeah.
single story?
Double story.
2-story, okay.
Yeah.
And so I understand the GFRC material that you're using. Have you finalized the choices on any sort of textures or colors, or is it approximately rendered the way it's going to be, just a
Yeah,
calibration?
it's rendered in an approximate, I would call this the kind of basis of design.
Okay,
You know, typically when we work with whether it's a precast or a GFRC manufacturer, we will, you know, continue to refine and you know, try different sandblasting, like, oh, that looks a little too heavy, that's a little too light, and you know,
Okay.
fine tune the detail as we make our way through DD and CDs.
okay. I thought the site works well. Again, you're hearing the same comment. It's we'd rather see a little more variety in the planting schemes, even in the larger lawn areas. However you might do that. I know this is early and you're negotiating a lot of other things. So we'll leave you to develop that as you see fit. But that our comment is clearly that we don't expect to see just a bunch of lawn mowing lawns. It doesn't seem to meet the sustainability issues that you've been talking about. So we hope you, as you develop that, you can take that in consideration. I do like the outdoor seating area. My concern when that zoning went into effect was that that was a big setback on Gould Street. And while there was a lot of discussion of pedestrian activity and access, if that wasn't really street friendly, so it was, you know, the 50 feet. So I'm pleased to see you developing that as something different than just landscape space, that it's can be an amenity. And I think the water feature at the corner will be well received. I was never a big fan of the koi pond, but I think that there's a strong tradition there, and I think you've caught on to that. So I think that was good. Overall, in the building design, I think it's a comfortable mix of materials and the way you've proportioned them and scaled them. There seem to be around the entrance. Are those garage doors to underground parking? The bigger first floor?
Yeah, we're trying to provide some flexibility for future tenanting to evolve in a number of ways. So we currently have a south building and a north building loading condition. So the south building, these doors here, we've tried to screen them, you know, at least from the immediate entry point, but acknowledge, yeah, you're going to go by them at some point. But it's better than, you know, exposed loading. There'll be actual dock doors that can close and, you know, conceal the truck. And then, you know, again, to provide flexibility so that, you know, the north building could be leased by one tenant, the south building could be leased by another. We've duplicated some loading for the north building here. And then this last bay is the entry. There's one level of below grade parking underneath the entire footprint of the building, and that entrance point is that garage door at the corner there.
Okay. I guess I'd like to see that those aren't just flat gray panels. They seem quite large. Maybe there's a little more differentiation in the detailing of those.
Yeah,
going forward.
Great. Yeah.
And then my last comment, and I mentioned this earlier to one of your attorneys, that these parking garages, as Bob alluded to, have been a problem. We've had a lot of difficulty, gotten a lot of criticism for the one that's in the New England Business Center currently. Yeah. And it was just a big concrete spandrel panel. They added some screening at a later, once more of the site got developed, but I don't think it's worked very well. Mm-hmm. My concern is that I see a lot of parking garage screening nowadays that's a little more three-dimensional approach. Mm-hmm. You might have a layer of, say, the panels you're doing, and then secondarily there's there might be a second layer of screening that is going in a wave or goes at an angle. Yep. Across that, and starts to get a little more three-dimensional diversity in it. Yep. Sometimes the panels go above the roof a little bit.
Yeah, one of the things we did in Cambridge, sorry, just to show you an example, one of the things we did in Cambridge that I think worked out pretty well is that, you know, typically a structural precast garage, the spandrels and the columns are flush. So we actually added a kind of a veneer pilaster, an additional 6 or 8 inches in depth that covered all of the vertical columns, also just to get a little bit more play of shadow and texture and depth. And then we're not showing it on this rendering at the moment, but the frame that supports the banner also has some architectural detailing interest, and we think can also help, provide a little bit more interest to the composition. But yes, keep going. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's fine. So that's what I'm thinking, is that maybe the frame doesn't simply frame the banner, but it's a framework that has its own architectural language going on, and then the screen goes attached to it. I think that could make it a little more interesting. I'd also like to see a little more of it, so that especially on the Gould Street side, there's a fair amount of panel left exposed as concrete, just the corner, and then that far side.
Yeah,
That's going to be quite visible to locals traveling on Gould Street. And so maybe even if you focus up on the front and a corner as it turns the corner, similar to the way you did, I think, on 128.
yeah,
It's pretty extensively done, and it rounds the corner, something like that, so that I guess I just don't want to make it look like we just hung banners on top
we
of a
missed some.
concrete
Yeah,
block.
yeah,
So that there's another
more
layer of
intentional.
thought to it.
Good comment.
So that would be my comments, I think, at this time. And Chad Riley was able to join us late. I don't know how much he saw, but he's had the package. Did you have anything you wanted to add? You're muted, Chad.
Yeah, apologies for everybody that wasn't able to join promptly. I think I echo the comments that I've heard my colleagues. I think on the outdoor seating area, it is a pretty heavily traffic idling area. So having some kind of decent screening from the cars would make it a more pleasant area. I'm not sure exactly how the traffic works or if it was addressed, and I apologize, but I wonder if that one intersection that's a little closer to the Highland Ave intersection is going to create some backup if there are cars coming out there as well. And so if it hasn't been studied, it might be worth looking at whether that might be an
Eric,
entrance only.
can you flick Eric to the traffic plan, the model that shows the model plan? The model that shows.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah.
It's just so that Chad can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems like if everybody's trying to go in and out right at that first intersection, it could cause a lot of backup.
Yeah, there's a left only, a through lane, and a right only, or might be a through and a right, and then
Two through and rights, and one dedicated left.
Yeah,
and then bike lanes as well on either side.
yeah, I'm more thinking about if cars are trying to come out of that, and I guess there'll be a traffic light there.
Yeah, Eric, go to the next model image, which shows the S for signalization.
Yeah.
Right there. Yep.
Yeah, the new West Drive will be a new traffic light intersection with the Wingate property.
I'm sure it's been modeled. It's just, I don't know. Just when I was looking at it, I wondered if the whole thing might be one-way traffic, but I'm sure you modeled it. Just going back to the overall site and picking up on some of the things that Mark was talking about with garage, that's sort of backside of the garage. I guess it's, on towards the north is going to be very apparent from the highway. And although that's obviously a different scale than looking at it from the neighborhood, it's going to be very apparent. So some real thought to the image that's projecting out as people are approaching the southbound direction.
Yeah.
But overall, it was seemed like a decent composition to me architecturally. It was a lot of thought. The south building is a pretty long facade, but it's just basically traffic along there. I think one of the things, just picking up again on the garage, one of the things that we've run into a lot is the way that the lighting works, and especially if you're looking up into the upper floors, that there be some light control, and maybe it's not as much a concern from the highway, but with the residential area across the street, making sure that people aren't looking up into glaring lights that are on I don't know if it's 24/7 or quite late into the night. But some shielding of the lighting and some consideration of that would be worthwhile. Otherwise, overall, I thought it was a good composition.
In response to your lighting comment, I don't know if you heard me earlier, the lighting is a DDC, direct digital control system. So it's got three levels, a minimal level, which is 5, 10, 15% at most. And then when motion is activated, it brightens, and then it goes brighter as the motion continues to go through. In addition, all of the lighting in our garages is recessed within the webs of the beams, so you don't see the fixtures. The challenge with the A Street garage, which is opposite my office building, so I do see it. The lights are surface mounted on the lower part of the beams, so that's why you see that glare, and they're also not motion censored. Mark, you're muted.
So I think going forward, we'll see you again once you've gotten through more detail on the landscaping plan, so that we can just go over it with you and understand the full scale and in a little more detail. Sort of, I thought you had a nice mix of plantings. I thought they were great, but it's kind of where are they and what are they doing is my thought, curiosity at this point. So at some point, I think during your planning board hearings, which probably won't be a one-nighter, we can come back and show us that. And then I'd like to know a little bit more about the site lighting, so which we mentioned too, any of the fixtures and things. So if you can add that information. And then as Steve asked for some, if you have a little bit more information or samples on some of the building wall materials, that would be great. And other than that, I would say that we have completed our review. We will send our notes to the planning board, which they will add to their record and take into account in their review. So thank you for the presentation, and thanks for the building. I think it'll be a nice addition.
Thank you. Would you like to meet prior to our planning board hearing on June 7th, or would you want to wait until after that hearing and then come back to you? What's the best?
Our memo will say that we're going to look at it in more detail. You know, it's like, you know, there are a lot of issues that you're going to be covering with them. So if you want to try and accomplish it before June 7th, I don't think we meet again. So if you want to wait till the next meeting, make sure you have time to get through your coordination with the neighborhood. And maybe you can even get some planning board input based on our comments. And you can come back after that. So the timing's up to you. We'll do whatever you want, but I don't feel the need for you to rush back here before you see them.
Mark, I'm sure you mentioned it, but on these larger complexes, signage, you know, from wayfinding and directional signage right up to the tenant signage on the building can often be a pretty lengthy process to get through it all. I did notice that there was a couple of instances where it looked like some tenant signage might be put up on top of the building, but with the size of some of these buildings that could be multi-tenant, and you know, one sign on top of the building isn't necessarily going to cover everybody who wants to have a street presence. So ongoing consideration on where and how signage is going to be located and controlled on the building, but then also just within the entire site and how the branding and the wayfinding and all of that works is something that we will want to look at in more detail.
Understood. The challenge we have now is we don't know if it'll be multi-tenant. We have no tenants for the building, obviously.
Yeah.
So do we plan on multi-tenant where we create a menu board and a pylon sign that has you know, several tenant names or one tenant names?
Yeah.
One tenant name. But what we can do is come back with 3 different options, 3 different alternatives. This is what it would look like if it's 2 tenants, 1 tenant, 5 tenants type of thing.
Yeah. Generally speaking, it works pretty successfully when the developer and the architect have worked together to really give some consideration to where that's going to happen, and
Sure.
and then it can be written into lease agreements and things like that. That, you know, at leasing the amount, this amount of size, this is, you know, what you're allowed in terms of the exterior signage.
Yeah, we really are pushing not for multiple tenant signs. I think your building on First Ave has at times had 4 or 5 in a row on a second story. We're trying to move away from that approach more. The former PTC building has several tenants now, and we're working with that building owner on how to approach that in a more simple way. And as you mentioned, the compound sign with multiple listings and then maybe a couple of tenants that get a larger notation is really, we think that's the best way to go. It isn't codified at this time, so, but that is something that we started discussing and working on once the TripAdvisor building went in, knowing that there might be multiple tenants in buildings that size coming forward. So, but we're a little ways away from that, but we'd like you to keep it in mind. And as Chad said, if you can really plan for where some of those are going to go, it makes it much easier than trying to attach them to one of the curtain wall systems or something where it doesn't really look like it's fitting. Okay.
Thank
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all for coming, and thanks for waiting through the technical delays.
Thanks for your patience with us.
Have a good night.
Thanks again.
Right.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. So we don't have any meeting notes. Wasn't able to do them. So, and I appreciate you guys all jumping in late. Len and Deborah did not respond until very late that they weren't going to attend. So, and then Susan was having some technical problems, so we didn't have a quorum. But I appreciate you getting in at the end and offering some comments. And Bob, thanks for, I don't know what, if you're looking at your laptop while you're driving down the highway or what?
No, I'm sitting in the Providence Art Club parking lot, running my laptop off my phone. But I'm glad I joined because Kristen, who was on the call there, I don't think she spoke. She was one of my star students at Roger Williams.
Oh, great.
And I used to work with Eric back in the day at Inc. So it was really nice to see them. And I'm glad I tried to look at the presentation as people were talking. But I think we got some good points across.
Yeah, so these large ones are hard, and
yeah.
So, and that, I knew they hadn't developed the landscaping, but I wanted to kind of steer them in some directions. I think Susan had some good comments, and some of the screening issues on Highland, I don't think the design team really understands what a nasty road that is all day long. So
yeah, their rendering showing people leisurely strolling down the sidewalks on Highland Ave is kind of almost amusing.
Okay. So our next meeting is June. Actually, we do have a meeting before they meet again, but next meeting is June 6th. So
that's what I have.
And the planning board is meeting on the 7th.
So if they want to come back, they can. So we can.
We
tell them.
already have, we may have 2 hearings at that June 6th meeting.
Okay. All right. I'd rather they wait. I mean, it's going to take them several meetings to get through a planning board hearing. So given what I've seen the planning board in the past, their pace of work. So, and allowing the amount of public comment that they will be taking will take them quite a while. So I think they're safe to wait till the next meeting. So I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
All right. Bob Dermody.
Yes, I adjourn. See ya. Bye.
Bye. Susan Upton. Chad Riley.
Approved.
Steve Tanner.
Approved.
And the chair approves. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Good
Sorry
night.
about all these problems. I don't know how that all happened.
Thanks for
but-
sticking with it, Susan.
and thanks to Rana.
And Rana for dragging people through the mud to get them there.
No problem.
All right.
Thanks for jumping in, Chad. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm sorry about the 11th hour curveball. It's,
It happens.
our 1-year-old puppy got neutered today. My wife thought she was going to be back about 2 hours earlier than she did, and so all of a sudden it was takeout and a bunch of stuff to deal with, and